even if the need arises out of poor stewardship?
Take care of the need, and then you try to work with the family with the stewardship problem. But you never withhold money as a club or something to get them to respond. Christ never does that to us, and we can do that to them.
Okay, anyone else? Herm?
If a problem like that would exist and continue, the deacons to see that there's a problem with poor stewardship, then would that be something, maybe we talked about this before, would that be something that they would eventually tell the deacons, the elders, that everyone talks to people about this?
That's right. I think if poor stewardship is a consistent problem, then the deacons ought to report this to the elders. To be a poor steward is, after all, to sin, isn't it? And it's a violation of the commandment, thou shalt not steal. The scriptures include the whole principle of stewardship under the commandment, thou shalt not steal. And it certainly, therefore, is a violation of the law of God. And if there's persistence in that sort of a thing, then certainly the deacons must turn the matter over to the elders. I think that's correct. Darrell?
I would say that one case that I worked on, we didn't withhold money, but we paid the bills for the people. The man wouldn't pay his rent, for example, and the landlady would call the church and say, hey, he didn't pay his rent again this week. And we said, well, or this month, we had given him money. So then we wrote out a check to the man and the landlady, so that he had to cash it. She and he had to both sign it before it would be cashed.
Oh,
And there were other times when we paid his gas bill and his telephone bill and electric bill and so forth. They were get down to the point where they were going to be shut off, and we would pay them for him because he couldn't handle money. And it was a case of poor stewardship. But that's one way that we did get around it, is by paying the bills for him. Otherwise, his family would starve or be cold, be without a house. And then we worked with the individual
on the problem of stewardship.
on the problem of stewardship.
Okay, anyone else? I do think generally, though, that the deacons ought to steer clear of becoming financial advisors. I'm not in favor of that. I think that's outside of the realm generally of their work. Maybe in extreme cases, it becomes necessary that you operate as a financial advisor, but I would much prefer that be done on a friend-to-friend basis or a saint-to-saint basis, rather than make the work of the deacons the work of financial advisors. Pretty soon, if you become a financial advisor, you know you're going to be asked questions about what stocks they should invest in, what the stock market's going to do the next day. I think that you must be very careful about that. Of course, if they can invest in the stock market, you've got a few other questions to ask. Anything else on that? Yes, Bruce.
I think looking at it a little bit different point of view, that sometimes these families are so far in debt that it almost takes a financial advisor to straighten the whole mess out. I'm thinking especially of a person that's self-employed, he has his own business, and his household expenses are mixed together, the income and the expenses, and it takes somewhat of an advisor to straighten it out, to separate them, and to find out where his problem is, whether it's his business, whether he should be in business for himself, or whether he should work for somebody else.
I think, though, Bruce, don't you think that in a certain situation like that, or any similar situation, it would be far better that the deacons would do one of two things, that the deacons would either suggest strongly to the man that he seek financial advice from companies that do this. There are all kinds of companies that do this. Or, and that would even be preferable, get the man to agree to work with someone in the congregation who is trustworthy and in whom he trusts, and ask that individual, would you help this man sort out the mess and get the business on a firm footing, find out where the problem is? I think that, don't you think that'd be far preferable?
Yes, I think so too.
I'm very reluctant to have deacons get involved in this sort of thing.
I'm thinking especially out west, especially the farming business, it's very, very stressful. It is around here, myself, I am involved in the farm, and it is, especially out west too, land values are decreased, and families are losing their houses, and banks are taking over, and it's a very stressful situation. And I feel for some of these people out there.
Yeah, yeah,
And they need help, whether it's, the church or
yeah.
financial teams, figure the whole mess out, whether they continue or not.
That's right. But I would prefer that others do that, and I don't mind if the deacons advise him and suggest this to him and help him to get others, but I tend to steer clear of deacons getting involved in this. And I don't think in the long run it works either, because someone has to work with a man like that much more closely than deacons can't really do. Joe, you wanted to comment on that. Go ahead.
I think the point about seeking people who are professional finance advisors, the people who specialize particularly in household finance and are not much better than loan sharks, and they're only finance they're interested in their own.
Oh, is that right?
And I would really hesitate to send someone who comes to the Deacons for help to financial advisors. I saw you have instances where they say, well, if you pay him $5 a month, he'll be off your back, So you got tuition that's running up at $300 a month, and you get $5 a month from the fund, which is what kind of advice is given. The advice is given is totally not related. The people don't seem to be able to relate to a church, Christian school type situation. They're relating to something totally different. They're relating to how you can get more money, get further ahead without paying your bills or somehow. Because I've seen a school board where it was just simply going downhill fast because the guy sought help from a financial advisor.
That could very well be, and I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know anything about these institutions, of course, never had anything to do with them or any contact with them. So maybe the second alternative I suggested would be the
I
preferable.
would think so, yeah.
Okay. I see our time is almost up, so I don't think we're going to get into 9. We can finish 9 and 10 and A next time, I think. I do want to stress one point once again, the point which I've stressed before in this class and which I think needs very much to be stressed. And that is that when you help the poor, help those who are in need, don't leave the impression with people that you are stingy or that you give reluctantly or that to get money out of the diaconate is like getting blood out of a turnip. Be merciful. Be merciful. Don't ever forget that. You function in the place of Christ. Christ is merciful. You have to bring to those people the mercies of Christ. Maybe their financial straits are due to sin. All right? The sin has to be addressed. I'm not talking about simply overlooking the sin and ignoring the sin. The sin has to be addressed. But nevertheless, part of mercy is too that Christ blesses us, though we are undeserving of it. That's the essential character of mercy, in fact. And he forgives our sins, and he gives us his blessings, even though we have forfeited all right to them. That kind of mercy has got to be reflected in your work with the poor. They've got to know that Christ understands and is sympathetic with them in their need and looks upon them in mercy and favor. And you've got to bring that word of Christ to them by not only your words, but your deeds, your help. That's always the fundamental overriding principle. You're not businessmen. You're not financial advisors. You're not those who are trying to sort out financial problems. You're not that. You're simply ambassadors of Christ to show Christ's sheep, his poor, troubled, sinning, undeserving sheep, that Christ is a merciful Christ. That's what you're to do. Don't ever lose sight of that. Don't ever get so entangled in financial questions and all the rest that you lose sight of that. Because if you lose sight of that, you lose sight of your office. That's the point that I simply can't stress enough. The people have got to know when you are there, by your words and by your deeds, that Christ is merciful to them. They've got to experience that. And it's your responsibility to see to it that they do. Okay. Who has a number which to close? Pardon me, give 367. If I asked you to close with prayer ready, Larry, will you close tonight after we sing 367? Okay. 1 and 5, 367.